Hello, everyone. Welcome to me interviewing my boss, Mr. Luke John Harrison, about his life and probably some very, very deep topics. So, my name is Adam James Proud, sitting with Mr. Luke John Harrison. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm fabulous, mate.
Do you love my raspy, cold voice?
I've always loved your raspy cold voice. I've heard
I
it
don't
several
normally
times,
sound
mate.
like this, but I'm hoping you can understand my questions, all right, mate.
All
My first question for you is: you said, especially in your book, the tagline is, "I wanted to die. Now I show people how to live." So I'm just curious, what was your rock bottom moment, and what flipped the switch for you to climb out of that?
Rock bottom for me, as the story goes in the book, was after a broken relationship. I'd had a couple of broken relationships in the past, but none to the severity of this particular one.
Yeah.
Where I was in the midst of drinking drugs on the weekends. It parted because of a drunken night where I was accused of assault on another woman, which didn't happen. And a lot of people believe a lot of lies, and it was a very traumatic time being accused of something where there was no witnesses, there was no nothing, there was kind of one person's word against the other, trying to fight my corner and all the rest. But anyway, it kind of got a little bit out of hand. A lot of people believed a lot of lies about me, and I started to then question myself. And it was a time when we were intoxicated a lot. I was just on the bottom after that. I didn't know. Obviously, when you're drinking drugs on a weekend, your mind's altered
Yeah.
by perspectives. Your energy is on the bottom. Your emotions are not handled correctly. Your situations are not dealt with as well as what they could be. And you start to question your life as well. When you have an ending of anything, it's like, well, what's the new beginning? I couldn't see a new beginning. I could only see pain, sorrow, regret, fear, anxiety, worry, what others thought of me, worries what others said about me, worried if I'd ever be able to get back from feeling on the bottom, from feeling worthless, guilty, awful, all the negative emotions that come with not feeling in the great headspace normally, let alone adding weekend binges of drinking drugs to that. And the turning point was going to this pharmacy and looking at all these pills when I was in the few weeks after the relationship breakup, feeling on the bottom and saying, what can I take to end my life now? And that was, I remember being in there, it was in Durham, and obviously they would never have sold me them, but I remember being in there, debating it, thinking it, wanting to go and buy all of them, and then thinking, stop, get out. You need to sort yourself out now. I remember the minute of going out of the pharmacy and walking to the window of the pharmacy and just leaning back on it and being like, letting out this almighty sigh of, now I've got to do something. I've got to build myself up. And then it was from there. It wasn't like, it's kind of an epiphany, but it was more so like, right, I need to do something to step up here, to get a level up. When you're on rock bottom, the only way is up, right? So it was, I need to speak to one person, or I need to read one book, or listen to one good song that I enjoyed, or go for a walk, or do something positive. And then it was one little step after another. Then it obviously came changing my job, which I was miserable in, changing my situation that I was miserable in, changing the friendship circles that weren't serving me at the time, changing my mindset, starting to read more rather than just consume mindless entertainment, stop watching porn, start indulging in podcasts and books, things like that. Looking out for mentors as well and coaches and people ahead of me that I thought, I wonder if I could do what he does. I wonder if I could get some inspiration from her or whoever, because that was the big turning point, was understanding and being humble enough to say, I can't do this on my own. Everyone likes to think that they're strong enough and that lone wolf, hood up, go on my own. Never works. You always end up just alienating everybody. You never end up growing. You might leave a situation and feel temporarily better, but the lone wolf starves. We need people in my life. We need support groups, communities, tribes, social circles that lift us up, that inspire us, that help us be a better person. Have higher standards. If we're hanging around pissheads all the time and drug takers, guess what we're going to probably end up doing? All that shit, right? So that was kind of very short story of my rock bottom moment, which is obviously in the book. And a short space of probably a couple of years regeneration period, if you will.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, when they hit the rock bottom moment, they don't have the motivation to get out of it. So, in your own personal philosophy, what is motivation, and why do people keep misunderstanding how to use motivation and how to get motivation?
Motivation is the temporary and finite resource that shrinks and expands in direct proportion to one's current state. That's my own personal definition of motivation.
It's a good definition. Yeah.
It took a long time to get to it because motivation wasn't. So you're far more motivated to get out of pain than you are to move towards pleasure. It's human nature. We are always more driven, motivated. That's why alcohol, smoking, gambling, porn, all these addictions and vices are the biggest and most the most popular points of consumerism. We gravitate towards these things because they ultimately bring us out of pain. Mostly they do have pleasure to them, but often we are choosing them to get out of some kind of pain. So we are motivated to do that, but that's because we're in a state. We're in either a really low state, we're in a highly energized state, we're in a tired state. That's why we are motivated, say, to have an energy drink when we're tired, because we will get a quick fix, we'll get a boost of energy with some caffeine, we will, get the feeling. But the motivation is such, everyone wants this Rocky style motivation. This whole and we love watching the story of the guy who was doing really well, then everything came crumbling down, he built himself up, and we love feeling the emotions in the story of, somebody triumphing over, complete peril.
The underdog story.
Yeah, we all always love that. But the fact is, during that, we get the feeling watching the story, and we'd love to have the motivation that we feel whilst watching it. But the motivation never stays because the state always changes. Motivation is always temporary and finite, and it shrinks and expands in proportion to your state because your state always changes. You can feel depressed, low, and sad, and then you can have a drink on Friday night and feel happy and joyful and get a lot of pleasure in the moment, and your state's different. And then the next day you feel low and you go to something else to bring yourself back up. But at certain times when you're high or you're low or whatever, you're in these up and down states where sometimes motivation's present, sometimes it isn't, but we're always driven to feel better. That's the ultimate motivation, is to feel better. But a lot of people will unfortunately use, like I did, not very useful things in order to feel better. There's a lot of ways to do that, right? So motivation for me was not always, it was understanding it a little bit more, in answer to your question, is understanding that it shrinks and expands. It's there sometimes when you're feeling so low, you have the motivation through anger. You say, right, I'm going to prove him wrong. Fuck him. Fuck her. I'm going to show her, and you're going to be motivated to do better. But ultimately, motivation through anger doesn't last, because anger is a great catalyst for getting started, but it's a fuel that will burn you out along the way. Because if you're constantly angry, it's like the whole Buddha saying, what is it? It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That one. That's kind of what anger is over time. You're seething inside. You're kind of eating yourself a bit up in you to try and sort of prove someone wrong, which is a great catalyst to get moving. Yeah. And that will create initial motivation, but ultimately you're going to get tired. You're going to get worn out. You're going to get frustrated because anger never lasts. But as well, motivation, we can be inspired. We can see someone, for example, lose loads of weight and be really glad they were kind to themselves. And then we can be, oh my, that's me. We might take a softer approach. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to be more kind to myself. So now, I'm going to get up. I'm going to do me reading. I'm going to be listening to me podcasts. Go for me power walk. I'm going to get in some cold shower. I'm going to go do good for myself. And that's a different motivation. But then something's going to come in life where you're not motivated. You're going to be hit with some kind of depressed notion, or somebody's going to judge you, or you're going to get let go at work, or you're going to have some kind of outgoing bill that's a real shock, or your pet's going to die, or somebody else is going to die in your family, and you're going to have this lowness and sadness. So you're not going to feel motivated then. It's going to come and go, isn't it, depending on what it is. So there's loads of ways to look at this motivation. So for me, it was about understanding. Motivation comes and goes, it shrinks and expands. But if your state is good, and you can maintain a good level head, you are far more motivated, more regularly, not all the time. So what I found is that the reason a lot of the time that I wasn't motivated was not because I lacked motivation, I lacked energy. And that was the biggest turning point for me, is because I could go out on a weekend and say Saturday night I'd start drinking at 5, 6 p.m. all the way through, maybe it was a coke sniffing evening. We'd be sniffing coke till 3, 4 in the morning, smoking weed to get to sleep by 5, 6 o'clock, and then we'd have 2, 3 days of energy on the bottom. And I'd say I'm not motivated to get back to the gym until Wednesday, for example. Well, it wasn't really motivation, it was energy. My energy was fucked.
Yeah.
So then I'd be fine by Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, I'd go to the gym, but then Friday night, if everyone was going out, I might say, right, well, I've got the weekend to recover. I can go out now on Friday and stop up till 3 o'clock on Saturday morning and get a takeaway and smoke weed to get to sleep again and wake up at 11, 12 o'clock on the Saturday morning, have the Sunday to recover, and then by Monday I'd had a late night again because my circadian rhythm was all off, and then energy was fucked. So really, it wasn't motivation, and it's very rarely motivation. It's usually always, for 9 times out of 10 for people, the thing that they lack is not motivation, it's energy. And when you can get a handle on your energy, that's just done by several ways. You know, obviously getting to bed on time, waking up at the same time is great. Hydration levels, cutting out alcohol, exercise, cardiovascular exercise along with weight training as well. You know, all these, you know, eating a better diet, all these things we know are great for our energy, but it's way easier to high an energy drink down. It's way easier to take alcohol. It's way easier to just smoke or relax on the sofa than it is to do these hard things which create a good state. So
well, you, in a lot of your work, you challenge the term of perfectionism. So where do you think people are going wrong with the entire attitude of having to get it right and get it perfect? Why is that damaging people's, not just progress, but also their mental health?
I have a lot of respect for perfectionists because they have higher standards. And that's great. And I especially respect this in creative outlets like musicians, artists, and some great works of music and film have been done by perfectionists by being so attached to this that they've produced this amazing spectacle, whether it be audible, visual, and it's hit people on so emotional levels because of the perfectionism attitude. But it's few and far between that masterpieces are created. A lot of masterpieces are also created by just consistently showing up and being relentless with your approach, not needing to be perfect. So perfectionists, you could say, are possibly also attached to all or nothing identity. So they call themselves all or nothing people. But sometimes what that can really mean is I quit when it gets hard. All or nothing people. I used to consider myself one. Like, I wouldn't go out, and I still kind of consider myself this way, but this has worked for me well. This is where it's worked well. Alcohol. For me, all or nothing approach. I wouldn't go out and enjoy a pint or two with my dad. I wouldn't. I would go out and want to get smashed. I would want to do 10, 12 double vodkas. I would want to go out with the lads or with the crew that was getting wrecked. Then I'd want to take cocaine, party, ecstasy, smoke weed to get to sleep. That was the rhythm of me and alcohol. It's been 6.5 years since I've had a drop of alcohol now. Because I still have that all or nothing approach to it, I don't see the point in having a little bit of alcohol. I need to just have a lot. Now, that's worked well for me. But when people have the all or nothing approach, for example, to fitness, diet, exercise, that's ridiculous. Because at the end of the day, that's a healthy way of living that will never always be perfect. You're going to have times when you're ill. You're not going to want to eat well when you're ill. You're going to want comfort food, and it might happen. You can't go to the gym when you're ill or you're injured sometimes. So what do you do then? You just stop because you can't do it all. You do nothing. Well, no, but you can still go out for a walk when you're ill. You can still do other alternative exercises when you're injured, just maybe not something that you're used to. I say it all the time. I broke my ankle in October 2023.
Oh, did you? You've never mentioned that.
Don't know if I mentioned that. I talk about it all the time, though, because I'm like, it's the first bone I ever broke. I was 37 at the time. 37 years, never a broken bone, right? You hear about, everyone broke a bone as a kid. I never did.
No.
Never broke a bone. First broken bone. So I fractured my ankle doing wrestling training. And at first I was like, oh shit, this is serious. I've never broke a bone. I was in a moon boot on stilts, crutches. That would have been good. On crutches for 4 to 6 weeks, then just in the boot. So the first couple of days I was in my own head. Fuck, this is such an inconvenience. What do I do? Then 2 days later, I was like, I'm going to sit on a bench and use some dumbbells. So all or nothing people would have been like, well, I'm injured now. I've got to wait for my ankle to fully clear before I can go back to training. I can't do anything. I can't do what I love to do. Maybe they're a runner or a sports person. Can't play football. Well, what's the point? I sat on a bench 2 days later and started lifting dumbbells, doing push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups. You know, and when I could put some weight on it, I started doing light squats, and I started to just do what I could with where I was with what I had. And that's where I switched from the all or nothing approach, because I was an all or nothing with me diet as well. Because I would have times in my party years, in my 20s, where I'd say, you know what, I'm not drinking for a month, 6 weeks. And I'd go all in on my fitness and my health, and I'd be at the gym 5 days a week. I'd be not drinking on the weekends for a few weeks. I'd feel great. And then I'd go back to it because it was an all or nothing approach.
Yeah.
Whereas I was like, when I changed from all or nothing to little and often, and I was like, well, if I can't do it all, I'll do a little bit. I'll do a little bit, and I'll keep doing that until it feels weird not doing a little bit. So it got to the point where it wasn't about doing it all, having to do it all, the pressure of that sometimes, but about doing little bits with where I am with what I've got. See, I've took another example I can use of this is I've started miniature painting, and I started it about a year ago. It's like Warhammer and gaming miniatures, and I post about it every now and again. And I've always been a board gamer. But I've never considered myself very artistic in that way. Former musician, singer, performer on stage, but never artistic with my hands and painting creativity. So I've started this. And if I went in with the all or nothing approach, it would have been about getting everything perfect and being able to dedicate exactly 2 hours every Wednesday and exactly an hour every Saturday morning, exactly this, that, and the other. But it was like, look, I'm just going to do what I can when I can.
Yes.
And I've become very, very skilled and very good and enjoying it by just saying half an hour here, half an hour there, a little bit here, a little bit there, planning it in. Twice a week we'll get it done here. I can't do it there. We'll do a little bit here. That's fine. Little and often, little and often. And then a year later, I've built up all those little reps where I'm comfortable now and I feel fairly skilled to be able to take on something that at first I thought I was shit at. This is most people's approach with diet and exercise or a new job or skill set or whatever. They think they're shit at it, and they are shit at first. But you don't have to go into it head first, all in. Do a little bit and often until it becomes to the point where now the miniature painting is something I do regularly. And I'm getting better at every time I do it and I enjoy it. And if I if I have a week or two off, fair enough, I'll just go back to it.
Yeah.
It's the same with exercise. If you have a week or two off, don't fuck off the whole month. If you have a Thursday, Friday, Saturday off, you don't need to fuck off the rest of the week or vice versa. You don't start on Monday or Tuesday. You don't need to wait till the following Monday. Just get back on it the next day.
Yeah.
Or 2 days later. Like, it doesn't have to be start on Monday magic or start on the first of the month or start after in the summer or in the winter or after the holiday or after the anniversary. Just start when you can with where you are with what you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of after all the growth that you've gone through, what are some of the things that, because obviously on the outside it looks like, you run and see every day, you train every day, you journal every day. It looks from the outside like you've got everything good going on, everything's hunky-dory and set in place. What are some of the things that you still struggle with now, even after all this growth?
Overthinking, I think can come in, but a lot of the time I just realise, because I've noticed a lot over the years that overthinking is often just a lack of priorities or being clear on priorities. So if I find myself overthinking, which I do struggle with from time to time, overwhelmed, you could say as well, that's a big one. A lot to do, too much to do, too little time. I think, right, I'm not clear on my priorities here. Not everything can be a priority. So I have this one thing in my journal that I answer every day is 3 things that if done today will be the most impactful and progressive are. That's how I kind of get over my overwhelm and overthinking a lot of the time is I think, right, every morning I journal and I say, right, what's the 3 things where they're going to, some professionals might call it the biggest ROI task, the return on investment, but I'll say what 3 things, and it could be something like train, hydrate, bedtime. It could be something like that email sent, that phone call done, and walk. It could be, something like making the date with the friend that you've been saying to do it for months. These 3 things, like not everything can be a priority. So overwhelm and overthinking does come at me. But I always usually manage it very well by just asking that question to reframe my priorities, which I think would help a lot of people because they try to do everything. I've got too much on. But at the end of the day, obviously my perspective's changed a lot in terms of my health is my wealth, my movement is my medicine. It's 2 life philosophies I scream about all the time.
Yes.
So if I have them 2 priorities and life philosophies at the forefront of my day, every day is going to go somewhat well. And I think most people need to realize this is your health is your wealth. Doesn't mean you need to train for 6 hours in the gym, but it means that some level of effort towards your physical and mental health needs to happen every single day.
Yeah.
And your movement is your medicine, understanding if you're feeling low, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling overwhelmed, you need to fucking move. Get out of your mind and into your body, because that's always going to change your emotions. It's going to change your clarity, your focus, your level of thinking. So that's probably one of the biggest things I think that bothers me now, is sort of those. And again, it's always some people call it intrusive thoughts. I shouldn't think this way. You can't choose your thoughts, but you can choose whether they're real and what they mean to you. You can always change your perspective on them. But that's, I think, most people's issues with mental health is you believe your own thinking sometimes. This is why it's so important to have other people around you for different perspectives. It's why journaling's so important. So if you are having intrusive thoughts or days of overwhelm or depression, whatever, you can ask questions to divert your attention, not towards how you're feeling, but how you want to feel.
Yeah.
So one of my clients who's struggled with our mental health for a while now, she says, the best thing that I've ever learned from you is that question. How do I want to feel?
Yes.
6 words, she said, changed my life. She says, I'm always focusing on how I feel, and that I feel shit and nothing's going well in that. And then as soon as I ask that question, I'm like, right. And then that can divert to something that is active or useful towards me feeling better, rather than dwelling on what I don't want, because we're all very good at that, right?
Yes.
We can all be very good at allowing those thoughts to say, you don't want this and you're not good at that and you're behind on this. How do I want to feel? That invites all, and it's the same for me. If I feel like shit with overwhelm, overthinking, possibly anxious thoughts sometimes, although I'm pretty good at managing them now, how do I want to feel? And you know what? A lot of the time, mate, when I feel a bit low, or I feel a bit overwhelmed, or I feel, just not myself, most of it's just linked to being fucking tired. And when I've got a handle on my energy, when I'm in bed on time, I'm reducing the amount of crap I'm putting in my body. I'm getting into a good fitness routine. I'm looking after my health, physical and mental. Then when my energy's good, life's good. So you struggle way less when your health's a priority and your energy's a priority.
Nice. Do you have a favorite motivational story that you have read in a book from somewhere? Maybe it's real, maybe it's sort of a parable, so to speak. Do you have a favorite one that pops to mind?
There's a few. So there's the one I like personally, which is my own story, which just came randomly, was the fish story. My clients will know what this is. It's very simple. So years ago, I used to buy all my fish from a fishmonger in Sunderland, and I used to buy like sort of 20 salmon fillets and freeze them at the time. And I was really into like me bodybuilding at the time, like just lifting weights, and I just wanted to get bigger. And I'd just been in the gym, and I walked in a vest top. It was a summer's day, and the guy behind the counter was like, "Oh, you looking good, mate?" And I was sweating. I was pumped. I'd just been lifting, and the guy was like, "Oh, you looking good, mate? You just been in the gym, have you?" I says, I'll have 20 salmon fillets or whatever it was. And he said, "Oh, what you training for?" And I remember without hesitation, I just looked at him and went, "Well, life." And he just like looked completely dumbfounded, like he'd never heard that before in his life. Like everyone thinks you have to train for a wedding or a boxing match or a photo shoot or a fight, or you're training to lose weight for a challenge before you do the Great North Run or whatever it is. You have to train for something. And I remember, because obviously I'd been at me training for quite a while by this time, and I just said life.
Yeah.
And he like, it took a few seconds for him to register. You could see him thinking, how do I respond to this? Like, I'm not used to this. And he just went.
You could see the cogs turn.
Yeah, he said, that's a good reason as any. And that was kind of one of the moments where I thought, I'm enjoying just training for the training's sake, not having to like go for a photo shoot, impress someone with me body, do it for an event, just training for life to feel better.
Yeah.
That always keeps me motivated, and I always tell people that story on the regular, because most people as well get demotivated through life, but if you train for life, you're going to be more motivated. So exercise is now a part of my life to expand it.
Yeah.
And it always works that way. I would probably say the other story that is highly motivating, I think it's probably the Renegade story as well.
Okay, tell me the Renegade story.
I might as well, yeah. So the Renegade story is a guy is walking along and he falls down a hole, and he's deep in this hole, and he's shouting for help. And he's saying, "Help! Help! I need some help! I fell down this hole." And people are walking and nobody's paying attention. And then eventually this guy in a white coat comes along. He says, "Hello, sir, I can see you down the hole." He says, "Yeah, I really, really need some help out this hole. Are you a doctor?" He says, "Yes, I'm a doctor." He says, "I can see you stuck down a hole. I know exactly what will help you. If you take these pills, 2 a day, just take 2 a day, and all your problems will go away." He throws down the pills. He says, "Thank you, doctor," and he starts taking the pills. Time goes on. He starts to feel a little bit better, and then he keeps taking the pills, but he notices he's still stuck down the hole. So after a little while, he's like, "I'm taking these pills, but I'm still stuck down a hole." And so he looks up and he goes, "Help! Can somebody help me out of this hole?" People are walking by, and then after time, the motivational speaker comes along. And the motivational speaker goes, "Hey, man." And he goes, "I'm in this hole." The motivational speaker says, "Don't give up on your dreams, man. You can do it. Don't let anybody talk down to you. You're worth more." And he's getting pumped up, and then he starts to hear Rocky in the background, and he's starting to feel a bit motivated, and he's starting to try to climb out this hole, and he's motivated, and he's in the moment. But after a while, the motivation starts to go, because he's trying and not really getting very far. Felt good for a while. He had the pump up, but then eventually he finds he's still down the hole. And so he's getting a bit frustrated by this point. And then the guy comes along at the top, and he's not actually saying anything now. And the guy looks down and goes, "Hey, I've noticed you're down a hole." And he says, "Yeah." He says, "I've got the 10-step system to help people get out of a hole." And the guy says, "Great, how do I get out of the hole?" He says, "Well, I can give you the first 9 steps for free. But the 10th step is a special offer now for £999 and 99 pence." And he says, "Well, that's great, but I'm still stuck down a hole." And he says, "Well, get back to me when you're ready." And he walks off. And the guy by this time is sitting down, and he's frustrated, and he's just deep in a hole. And then eventually this guy comes along, and he notices the guy in a hole, and he sits down. He jumps it down into the hole with him, and the guy jumps up all perplexed, and he says, What are you doing?" He says, "I've noticed you're down a hole. I've come to help you out." And he says, "Well, where's your ladder? Where's your rope?" And he's got nothing. And the guy says, I've got nothing." He says, "Well, that's stupid. How are you going to help me get out of this hole?" And he puts his hand on his shoulder, and he says, "It's okay, mate. I've been down this hole before. I know the way out. Let's go." And it's kind of that reminds me of, you always need somebody who's been on the bottom, or been where you're at, or at least knows the way out. So we're always getting people giving more advice. We're always getting people like shouting what you should do. And we kind of know what we should do, but we're not doing it. I think sometimes when you can gain strength from other people's stories, other people's philosophies, other people's way of living, not just what people say, because loads of people say great things, like the motivational speakers. A lot of people call me that. I'm great at doing speeches, but I've lived a lot of the stuff. I practice what I preach. I don't just say certain things, and I'm not just always the positive motivational guy. I'm the real life guy as well, you know. I think that story always helps motivate me, because I'm around a lot of people who've been on the bottom as well, or had struggles and faced them and come out great on the other side. And I'm always hearing throughout the people in my circles, I'm hearing stories of triumph. And even when I see clients and things like that go through struggle, I'm able to then say, right, I see where you're at. I might not be able to relate exactly, because let's say they're a woman, for example. I'm like, I know I'm not a female. I know might be going through this situation, or I've been through it, but I know people who have, or I've got a strategy here that I really think will help you because of this, you know. So I think that those 2 stories are probably the 2 that stick out the most. There's loads of others over the time, but I really like
have you ever read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho?
Yes, but I don't remember it. It was several years ago.
So there's a great one in that I always remember, and it's for the purpose in life, right?
Right.
So the guy in the book, he goes to the castle of a wise man. He waits in line to meet the wise man, and he says, "Wise man, what's the purpose of life? How do I find out, how to live the best kind of life?" So the wise man says, he has a spoon, he has some oil. He pours the oil on the spoon, and he says, "I want you to take it around the castle and come back to me, but don't spill a drop." Right? So the guy goes around, and he's like watching this oil on the spoon, trying not to spill it. He goes around the whole castle, eyes fixed on this spoon. He comes back to the wise man, he says, "I did it." And the wise man says, "Okay, well done. Did you see all the art pieces I've collected?" And the guy's like, "No." He's like, "Did you take in the beauty of the flowers in the garden?" He says, "No." He says, "Did you see the tapestries that I've collected from around the world? Did you see all these other rooms, all the armor I've collected, the swords, everything? Did you see all that?" He's like, "No." He says, "Right, take it around again and I want you to take in everything that's going on in this castle. So he takes the spoon round again with the oil, and he looks around everything. He's bewildered. He's amazed by it all. He comes back to the wise man. He says, "Wow, that was amazing. I didn't even notice it the first time around." And he says, "Look at the spoon." And he spilled most of the oil on the spoon. He's like, "Oh, but I was supposed to keep the oil on the spoon." He says, "The trick is, for the most beautiful life that you could live, is to take in all the beauty around you, but never forget about the oil on the spoon at the same time." And it was kind of, for me, it was about like, take in everything around you, but don't forget about that purpose, that one thing that's going to drive you forward, that makes your life worth living. But also, like, don't make it like it's such a, because I know a lot of people have that like sort of zoned in focus, but they forget about the beauty, the small things in life. And that's one of those stories that sticks out to me the most, I think.
Yeah, I love that. That's why every night I write 5 wins of the day down, because I notice the beauty in the small little things of being grateful. Like, I got out for a walk today. I sent that uncomfortable email today.
Yeah.
I laughed more at work today. You know, I went to the gym today. I got to bed on time today. Like, every day, 5 wins. Just appreciating those little things.
Well, in your planner and your higher end elite programs, there's a huge focus on structure, routine, reflection, asking the right questions. Why is self-control and planning more powerful than, say, willpower, for example?
Because environment always overpowers willpower. It always trumps willpower all the time. So we always love to think that we have the strength of the will, and our will to succeed will outdo our own emotions and feelings, but it's bullshit. Will only last so long. Willpower never lasts. It might be great in the moment. It's just like motivation. It's the same thing. It never lasts.
Yeah.
We'll get a feeling, we'll get a pump up, we'll get a high energy state, and we'll be ready to tackle and take action. But if our environment is not supportive of our goals, all that we'll be left with is willpower, and that will fail. It's like if you're a drinker and you decide, I'm not drinking, and you always still choose to go out with those mates who only see you on the piss, and you have nothing else in place to help you change your environment, then your days are numbered. All the time you're going to go back to drinking because you're hanging around the people who are still doing the behavior that you want to abstain from. So your environment is key when it comes to willpower. But planning as well is key, because your life's only as good as your plan, I feel. Now, some people might disagree with this. They like to be free spirits. They like to be... some people call it organized chaos. You know, I'm not too fond of that term, because I'm a little bit, I think, OCD in the way of how I particularly plan and schedule things. I need to be, otherwise my brain goes all over the place.
Yeah.
But I've found that the more structured I can be with my routine and my planning, the more I adhere to it.
Okay.
So if I say to myself, right, I'm going to plan my week ahead, this is what's going to happen this time, this time, this time, this time. I'm not saying everything will happen 100%, because, again, I'm not a perfectionist. If something doesn't happen quite as well, I'm okay with that. But if you don't plan it, if you don't schedule it, if you don't book the date in, pay for the tickets, if you don't say that you're going to do it, tell other people, get other people on board, you're not going to do it. The reason why nights out on the drink works so well is because everyone says they're going to do it at the same place, at the same time, and you know what's going to happen. And there's accountability with that. So it's planned, isn't it? Nights out. You can have unplanned nights out, but a lot of nights out happen on the regular. Saturday night, 7 o'clock, we're meeting such and such, and everyone's there.
Yeah.
And this was the same for me on Saturday nights in Newcastle. Everyone met in Trillions or whatever it was, and without fucking fail, every single week, the same people were sitting in the same places, drinking the same fucking drinks, talking about playing the same fucking music.
Yeah, they're probably still there.
And it was the same fucking shit every week.
Yeah.
Like, because we get attached to routine. But routine can be broken if you have a visible plan. So if you're not using your calendar, your diary, like, you're missing out on a treat, man. That's just, people think that I'm just going to do better, they say.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? Like, what's your plan? Where's your written schedule? You need something visual, because if it ain't visible, you'll fucking forget. This is why I'm massive on my planner, my calendar, on my phone. It's always filled. My goal actually this quarter is to have 0 white space in the calendar. So obviously my schedule is like every half hour, as you've seen, and I try and fill those blocks with things, stuff to do, stuff that's valuable, useful, fun, exciting, stuff that's going to help distract me from overthinking or scrolling too much or getting involved in things I shouldn't do, that kind of thing. Try and just program in and plan in as much as I can. It's critical, absolutely
Nice.
critical.
Nice. Well, you've built sort of a brand and a business around being brutally honest. Why do you think brutally honest is better than, let's say, sugarcoating? Why do you take the brutally honest approach with people?
Yeah, this is the biggest fear for me in being brutally honest, and I guess everybody struggles with this, is the 10 most dangerous words. What will other people think? What will other people say, right? It's true for almost everybody. Some people have the tendency where they can shut off completely from what people think. But for most people, they do, even if they are brutally honest, they still care. Like, I actually care what people think. People who say, I don't care about what they think, yes, they fucking do, otherwise they wouldn't say it. I do care. I don't go out my way to outwardly offend anybody, but I'm of the complete understanding that the truth hurts, but the truth sets you free. That's been a phrase since I was a kid, that.
Yeah.
But also, I've noticed firsthand that I needed to hear things that I didn't want to hear in order for me to change. So I'd hear it, and at first I would get triggered, and I would say, it's all right for him. Yeah, it's different for him. He's got loads of money. It's different for him. He's got loads of followers. It's different for her. She's had this happen. She didn't have that, whatever. You point the finger and refuse to see the three pointing back at you. But the brutally honest approach is interesting because some people think people do it online just for views. And whilst there's sometimes a strategy behind phrasing something more negative and impactful to get people to watch, it's still, well, I know for my content, I'll always try and gravitate towards a negative headline because I know it gets more attention. But the idea for me is never popularity, it's impact. Like, it's nice when you get a viral reel or post. It's lovely when loads of people like your stuff, but it hardly ever happens. You know how much stuff we've posted over the years, thousands. Well, lucky if less than 1% goes even slightly viral.
Yeah.
So it's not for a matter of the views, but it's a matter of getting attention so that people can pay attention, so they choose, and actually be impacted by it. Because for me personally, growing up, things were sugar-coated a lot. And it was weird when when you get those people who say he's got no filter. Sometimes that's a good thing. It depends on the context of it. Some people can just be an arsehole.
Yeah.
Without a filter. They can just be a dick. You can just be like, it's just being a dick. He's got no filter. But some people, they've got no filter, and you might be thinking, actually what they're saying is very true. And they're having the balls to say what most people wouldn't say. So obviously everyone has their own opinions, but opinions matter little. I think creating impact from the heart is what means the most. And sometimes that does take telling you what you want to hear. Telling you what you need to hear, I should say, not what you want to hear. And that will always hit differently because we all want to hear that things are fine and we're great. But sometimes we need to be told, actually, that's not good enough. You need to fucking raise your standards. You know what? You're not very skilled at that. You need to do more. You need to get the reps in. You know what? That wasn't a good performance. Do it again. You know what? That's not good enough.
Yeah.
Do better. Like, that's okay. You know, it's like when you're trying to quit drinking. Some people need to say you're a dick when you've had a drink. Oh, that's hard to hear sometimes. You know, some people need to hear that for them to get that. Or you need to be honest with yourself, brutally honest, to say this is not contributing to my life anymore. I can't sugarcoat it, but I feel like a dick when I'm on drink or on sniff or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah.
Does that kind of answer that?
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to touch on is, obviously you wrote this in your book and you do it in all your speeches, the emotional home side of things. So looking at the emotional homes and the patterns of behavior that we frequently return to, what's the one destructive or common room that you find yourself in quite often and have to dig yourself out of?
So for those that are not familiar, there's 4 emotional homes in the book. There's past, there's change, there's journey, and there's light. Light is obviously the top room where you're pretty sorted, you're hunky-dory, not everything's perfect, but you're progressing, you've got flow, calm, momentum. This is very, very briefly discussing it for those. Your journey is obviously slightly lower than that, where you're on track, you're a go-getter, you play it till you crash, you need more relaxation in your life, etc. Your change is your anxious overthinker, you're up and down roller coaster person, you play the happy mask, but you're confident at work. And then your past is your low, sad, numb life on autopilot, that kind of thing, lost the ability to dream. Out of those 4 rooms, was the question, Where do you think I am?
Yeah, you personally, where do you find yourself often visiting the most, or where's the lowest point you find yourself at more often than
I'm
not?
always in between journey and light, but I can drop to change. So what that means is if I was to put it on my mood, my consistency, my life on a scale of 1 to 10, if I was to put it out normally, of course I have 5 out of 10 days
Yeah.
where I feel low, I feel tired, I feel overwhelmed. I never have days where I don't want to get out of bed, only when if I just feel tired. That's it. Not because I'm depressed or anything. Those days are gone, thankfully. But most days, I would say my life is a 7 to 8, sometimes a 9 out of 10, which is a pretty fucking good average. But
Yeah.
it didn't used to be like that. It used to be like 2s, 3s, 4s. So mostly, I'm usually a minimum 7, but sometimes I'll drop to a 6 or a 5, which will be the change room, which will be I'm happy and confident at work at what I'm doing, but sometimes I'm chasing the high. You know, sometimes I get a little bit lost sometimes, you know, a bit overwhelmed like we talked about before. But then that sometimes, again, what happens is I'll just be not clear enough on what my priorities are. Maybe I've stopped journaling for a couple of days, or, you know, I haven't exercised for a couple of days because of an injury, or I haven't been very well, you know, or, you know, maybe I'm just going through some stress in life, and I'm maybe looking to a little bit more of a quick fix, like more sugar, or buying something online to make us feel better, or looking for a quick win in the business rather than taking me time to do it, you know, or maybe looking for some more admiration online from a video than playing the longer game, you know, things like that, like little things which everybody can be guilty of, but ultimately would make you feel a little bit lower at the end. But mostly, mate, when I fall down and I have one of them days where I'm like 5 out of 10 or whatever, it's mostly to do with energy. Most of my problems come from low energy, and I say this to my partner Tracy all the time. When she's ratty or moody or hormonal, I'm saying, you're tired, and I can tell.
Yeah.
And this is most people's issues. Most people's issues stem from being fucking tired, not getting to bed on time, not eating the right foods, not exercising, not hydrating themselves, not doing the basic shit. Most people's problems, not all, but most people's problems can be solved and fixed by getting a handle on their energy. If your energy's high, it doesn't have to be supercharged, as I like to call it, all the time, but if it's good, it's steady, it's high, you will progress. You will start to do things which help you move forward in life. If your energy's low, you will regress, which is the opposite of progression. It means you get worse, you go backwards, and that's why people feel sad, depressed, overwhelmed, because they reckon that sadness is a perceived lack of options. I heard this the other day and I was thinking this is quite prevalent. Sadness is a perceived lack of options, whereas we feel more stuck. We feel like we have less choices. This is why, you know, we chase money a lot, because we feel that money would give us loads more options and choices. But at the same time, if we're chasing money and our body is completely fucked and we don't have the energy, the health, and the money means nothing. So it's finding that balance of having the choices, not feeling so restricted, but having a life of freedom.
Yeah.
So if sadness is a perceived lack of choices, we need to progress in our life to feel like we've got more choices. We need to feel like we're going somewhere.
Yes.
So that goes to show that progress and progression is happiness. Regression, feeling like we've got less choices, is sadness. So progress is happiness, which is why I always drive into people the importance of tracking data, of taking the 5 points of gratitude every day, 3 to 5 points, you know, seeing what you're ahead at, what you're behind on, what you can do better, changing your perspective, learning, growing. Progress is happiness, regression is sadness.
Nice. So you're also big on intentional language, using language as a way to reframe your thoughts and experiences and perceptions. What are some of your favorite changes in your language that you've put into your life?
I'm huge on language, and I'm fascinated by it. It's one of the pillars of I learned this from Tony Robbins a lot. It's one of his pillars, is language, of the pillars of just state and life. You know, physiology is one, how you move your body, language is another. And people don't realize what we say, how it impacts our entire life, or our feeling, but also what we speak into fruition usually tends to happen in life. The way we talk, it's just the way I've been. Guess what? It's just the way you'll always be. We say things just passively. I've always been this way. Guess what? Some people never change because they say, I've always been this way. So I like the example of, I've always been a smoker. Well, then you're always going to be a smoker unless you change the way that you talk. You can wear the nicotine patch, you can go on the course of seminars, but if you say and you subconsciously have this deep-seated belief that you've always been this way, you'll always be that way. So one of the things that is that I'll say things like, well, I've always, rather than saying I've always been, I could say I used to be. Or I would say that, especially the one I love is, I've got to go somewhere. Like, I've got to go to the gym. Very simply, for me, the change was, I get to go. I get to go to the gym, because some people don't have arms and legs. Some people can't do that. I get to go and work on my mental health. You don't have to go and work on your mental health. You shouldn't have to, you know. That's when you know you've kind of won, when you get to do something. So that was a big shift in language for me. I get to get up in the morning and go to a job that I enjoy. Are there parts of that job I don't enjoy? Of course. It's life, isn't it? But I get to go and have a job and have a business and have something that I enjoy. You know, I get to, rather than I must, I have to, I ought to. I get to was a big one for me. It's a shift in language. Language is incredible, I feel, because we always just become a product of our environment, but also our internal environment.
Yes.
Environment doesn't just mean who we're hanging around with and where we're at in terms of place. Environment's part of the place we spend time with our head. And then the place we spend time with our head is what we verbally say as well. So it's not just sometimes speaking out loud, but what we say in our head. That language needs to change as well. But if we can verbalize it first, like, I get to go to the gym, I get to go and work on my health, I get to go and do this, I get to go and have a job. Some people don't have a job and are on the bottom and don't have anything. Yeah, I get to go and see this person. I get to be a great parent. Not that I have to be, I get to be.
Yeah.
That's very different, right? That's a very basic example of it. There's loads more, but language is pivotal and powerful when it comes to growth and progression, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So you've often challenged the idea of happiness being the end goal and instead frame it as the starting point. So what do you mean by that, and how can people make that shift?
So I've studied a lot of happiness over the years, and I've been around a lot of happy people and a lot of unhappy people as well. And that's how we know happy, because we understand unhappy. It's like the opposite, right? We only know negative because we know positive. And likewise, we only know good because we know bad, and we only know bad because we know good, right? It's polarities, isn't it? So happiness is wanting what you have. I heard that years ago and I was like, wow, that is so fucking true. Because most people don't want what they have and don't like what they've got. So happiness is wanting what you have, right? Good, bad, in between. But people think that happiness has to be everything positive, everything that's great. Like, you don't love your partner because they're fucking amazing at everything. There's things about your partner that you fucking hate, that drive you up the fucking wall. That's love. Accepting positive and negative, right? Understanding challenge and support. Both sides of the coin. Polarities, right? So happiness, people feel, is something that you attain, that you go for. It's a goal, right? And at the end of the day, that's actually what we're all looking for, and that's normal. I guess everything we do is to try and feel better. The goal is always feel better, regardless of what you choose to get there. Whether it's attacking things with your body and your mindset, whether it's drinking or smoking or sniffing. You want to be happier.
Yes.
So you choose things to feel better. That's the goal. But people think that happiness is something that it's like you'll be happy when you get the thing. When I lose weight, then I'll be happy. When he marries me or she marries me and I get the kids, then I'll be happy. When I'm the white picket fence and the 2 kids and the perfect family, then I'll be happy. When I have won the lottery, then I'll be happy, right? But the turnaround is, when you're happy, these things will start happening. Not the lottery win, by the way. That doesn't happen just because you're happy. But when you're happier, you start attracting more happiness in your life. Because when you're not happy and you feel you're not happy, and happiness is this distant goal, you're always focused on what you don't want in your life. I don't want this, right? Don't want this, don't want this. But if you're focused on what you do want, you're going to go after that, right? But you can be happy right now by looking at what you do have, with where you are, with what you've overcame, and be grateful. Gratitude will trigger abundance. Being grateful will trigger that there is more to you, that there is more in the world and the universe. But expressing that regularly is hard, especially as men. We're very stubborn, often negative. We're not brought up to be positive, shall we say, a lot of the time, unless we're surrounded by the right people. But gratitude can trigger abundance. Now, abundance is an array of choices, which again, as we've talked about, choice equals happiness. It can equal a bigger feeling of freedom. And abundance is big, right? When we feel like we don't have choice, we feel sad, etc. So we feel we don't have this yet. We've got less choice. We've got less in my life. Happiness is over there. And I'll be happy when I get that. But then we're disregarding everything that we've got and everything that we've had.
Yes.
So this is where reflection and being grateful for what we've been through comes in, and being grateful for what we have. So happy people, I can't remember who said this quote. I think it was Michael Jordan's coach, who is a strength and conditioning coach, is that happy people and successful people don't have a to-do list, they have a done list. So what they have is they have a list of things that they've achieved, accomplished, and overcame already, and they start from such a particular strong foundation that they're like, I'm doing pretty fucking good, let's go.
Yeah.
Rather than life shit, come on, let's get there, then we'll be happy. Ugh, dragging your heels.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a different way to think of things. Like, if the average person of 40-year-old, say, even 30-year-old, took a list of everything that happened in the last 5 years that was good in their life, that they overcame, went through, that was positive, and then they wrote a list of everything that was negative but they got through and they are stronger because of, I guarantee that whole list would make them feel incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. If they took a list of every holiday they'd had, every experience they'd went through, every little win they'd got, if they took a reminder of, the relationship breakup that happened 2 years ago, that broke the heart, but ultimately they think, it was the right thing because she didn't love us anymore. It was pointless being in that relationship, but it helped me grow as a person, and I've experienced this, this, and this because of being a single man, etc. Things would change, right? Perspective is everything. But most people have a negative perspective of the past and an unrealistic expectation of the future, thinking that when I'm there, then I'll be happy. But you'll never be happy unless you take note of what you can be happy for now. That's the difference in truly happy people, is they understand that they don't have a to-do list, I'll be happy later. It's like, I have a done list.
Yeah.
I have a list of what I've able to accomplish, have achieved, and I'm happy with where I am, but I'm not really satisfied. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for this goal because I'm not satisfied, and I'm going to drive towards that because guess what? I want the next thing. I want more happiness. I mean, why wouldn't you want to expand what you've already got?
Yes.
But most people are trying to expand what they've got, but they feel they've got fuck all. So that's so difficult to expand from because then they're sitting in a, if I just got that, then it'll be better. If it just, and there's no energy, enthusiasm, drive there. Like, drive is created from understanding what you've already got and the momentum that you've already had, but people are just not realizing it. It's like when people say, I've had a shit week. Well, really, you've had a challenging week. Tell us what was good about your week. And if you did have a challenge, tell us what is good on the other side of it. How can you use that challenge and turn it into momentum? It's a very different way to look at things.
Nice. Well, speaking of the past self, it's a cliche question, but I'm curious. If you could sit across the table from your younger self, the angry, lost, self-sabotaging version of yourself, what would you tell him? What would you say to him?
I've got to be honest, one of the things that I overthink the most, even though I do all right for myself, is money. And I know that's a lot of people's issues, is overthinking money. Not that I spend stupid or anything, but being self-employed, in unsure times and all the rest, money goes up and down, emotions go up and down. And I've tried very hard to regulate those emotions, and I'm still trying, like everybody is. I would say definitely give some financial advice. I would say put 10% of everything you earn into some kind of investment or put aside. That would be the first thing, because that's smart. And if I'd started doing that at 19, 20 years old, I would have been in a much calmer place around my emotions with that than I am now. Not that I'm in a bad place, it's like anything. It's like regulating their emotions. Some people have the same perspective on weight loss. They're constantly up and down in their emotions because of what the scales say. So a lot of people would say to that person, well, don't pay much attention to what the scales say. Pay attention to what your head and your emotions say in your body as general. Yeah. So I would do that on the finance thing for number one. Number two, I would probably say, because there's not many real regrets in my life. I think everything happens for us, and you have to go through those challenging times to grow from them, those mistakes to learn from them, etc. I would definitely say the finance thing, number one. But number two, I would probably say about being hard on yourself, beating yourself up a lot, because I was big for that. Bullied as a kid from probably 10, 11, 12, from late in juniors to early seniors. Probably a period of about 4 or 5 years of bullying, because I listened to alternative music, and I grew my hair long, and I was called names, and tripped over in the corridor and had things thrown at us. That was really hard for me, emotionally, as a kid. Like, fairly quiet kid, but not really quiet, but also not confident enough in the early years to stand up for myself. So I think I carried a lot of that into adult life. I think that's probably why I got into drinking, drugs, and in training as well, because I got into training because I thought people won't bully us if I've got muscles. That was a great starting point. So that's a positive thing that came from that experience. So it's difficult for me to then say, like, don't be so hard on yourself, because like we talked about anger at the start, I was so angry at people bullying us that I joined the gym and started the gym. I started out of anger, which is a fucking great starting point to prove someone wrong, to get into it. But ultimately I realised I can't hold on to this anger. It has to be like forgiveness, acceptance, inner strength, empowerment, going because I want to go and I want to feel better, not just because I want to punish myself to try and be intimidating to other people. That's not a way forward.
Yeah.
So I could say in that, don't be so hard on yourself, but at the same time, because I was hard on myself for a bit, it got me to grow into exercise as a way of life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would probably say take more points of data of your life, like journal more. Back in 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, all that, phones weren't really a thing.
Yeah.
I would probably say take more pictures. I think, because we do that all the time now, and it's great because we can have those memories, which is fantastic. But I think starting reading and journaling earlier would have been a one for me, because I went through a lot of negative emotions from not understanding my emotions and not seeing a different way. So obviously when YouTube came out, it was great because I started to be able to listen to motivational speeches and hear people speak like I'm speaking today, like, well, I never quite thought about it that way. I never heard that. But then I started to read books, and then I wrote 2, and then it was like, I wish I'd started reading earlier as well. So there's like, I wish I started growing my mind earlier, because now I feel like, imagine if I was 10 years younger and I had this mindset now.
Yeah.
And then I'm ahead, because it's always that thing, I wish I'd started sooner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Always that thing. So there's things like that, but at the same time, that question, it's a great question, but at the same time, it gets you thinking about what you could have done and what you should have done better. And I'm like, we're here where we're at now. Some people, I speak to clients now who join me in their 60s, and I'm like, there's no reason why you can't get to your 70s and feel more energized if you start a healthy lifestyle now.
Yeah.
So some people are starting with me on a healthy journey in their 50s and 60s, whereas, I started working in the gym at 16. I started going to the gym, but I didn't start a healthy lifestyle till I was in my 30s. Not that I'm saying I would look back and say, don't party, don't drink, do drugs, because I had some fucking great times. I had some great memories. Forgot most of it, obviously, because that's what drugs do, drink. But at the same time, like, you can look back in a different perspective, but you can also say, I can start right now and make the rest of my life the best of my life.
Yeah. Nice. I like that. So as my final question to you, is it difficult for you after these 4 years to work beside someone who's clearly more talented, clearly sexier, and clearly has a lot more to bring to the world? Is that difficult for you? And how hard did you find hiring that person, whoever he is? How hard did you find hiring that person, and what was the decision behind actually taking him on full time?
Well, I was very reluctant at first, because I thought, he's going to outshine us. He's going to take over
naturally,
everything. Yeah. He's going to he's going to be, bullying us every day.
Which does happen.
I'm going to feel inferior in every single possible way, and it's going to be a right struggle. But I'm glad you came, Sensei.
You're welcome. You're a grasshopper. Is there anything I don't know about the hiring process that went through your head?
Well, to be honest, for those watching this, actually, I've got to pay credit to you, mate, because Adam was relentless in your persistence towards getting a job with me. So he just messages every other week. Mate, have you got anything coming up? Have you got anything coming up? Is there anything I can get involved in? I mean, I won't charge you. Anything to get involved in? I was like, no, nothing yet, mate. Because I was working on my own at the time, doing all my old social media, all the other all stuff, everything. And then every week or other week or whatever, and then you just message again. And there was a point where I was like, for fuck's sake, this guy's fucking persistent, like. Over and over and over again. Have you got anything to get involved in? And he came to interviews at the gym about me first book.
I did, yeah, that's right. For my first YouTube channel.
Yeah, and then you started to do a couple of my videos online and stuff and help us out that way. Then COVID happened, and obviously you helped us out a bit through there. And then you were like, have you got anything else coming up? Anything else over and over and over? And I thought, then it was getting to the point where the business was growing a bit. And I was like, well, I need to hire somebody to take the load off things. And you were there all the time. And I thought I could probably trust this guy. But what I admired about you, and I still admire about you, is your relentless persistence. And that's something that not many people have these days because they want the fucking easy way. So if anybody's watching out there and you want to get involved with somebody, or you want to get involved in a situation or a job or a space of somebody else, show them relentlessly that you want to be with them. Offer your support, offer your time, offer your expertise, offer your ability to lighten the load. Like, be relentless, be in their face, be persistent, message them all the time, offer your services. And that's ultimately why 4 years later you're growing along with the business and
absolutely, yeah,
being a part of it and growing not just professionally but personally as well, being around the right people and seeing all these success stories that we're having with Supercharged and everything, which is obviously having a good positive impact and creating a great working environment. So I can't.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you taking the ego hit and hiring Adonis like myself. So where can people find out more about you who maybe are watching this for the first time, seeing you for the first time? Where can people find your books? Where can people go to work with you as well?
The best place for myself is just probably social media at Luke John Harrison, Instagram, Luke John Harrison, Facebook. And if anybody wants a copy of the book, superchargedbook.com. Can't be any simpler.
Because if you get it through the website, well, you're signing them, right?
I'm signing them at the minute, yeah. Superchargedbook.com. So a signed copy of the book, and you can get it over there.
Nice, man. Well, it's been great talking to you, Luke, once again. I think this is like the 5th time I've interviewed you, and you're never a boring person to interview.
Well, thanks
so thank you
very
much, man. Appreciate your time.
Awesome.
Hey, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, drop a comment, and click the subscribe button and turn notifications on so you are notified of every new video that drops every single week here on the channel. And also, if you would like a free copy of my second book, Supercharged, the modern day guide to creating outstanding levels of energy, motivation, and self-control, then I've got it on audio right now. All you need to do is go to superchargedaudio.com, enter your details, and it's yours to your email inbox for free. Let's go. See you on the next video.